France has been rocked by protests since the national railway workers went on strike to contest reforms proposed by President Emmanuel Macron. But what started with the railway workers is now spreading to the rest of the country. Air France workers, teachers, students and other public servants have joined protests across the country to say no to reforms that they believe will jeopardize their rights, from labour to immigration, education and pay regulation.
From Calais to Paris to Lyon and Marseille, the CGT, or French Labour Confederation, France's oldest and largest union, called for the convergence of struggles across the embattled European nation this week. There are many reasons behind these protests. One of them concerns the public service, one of the strongholds of the French welfare state system. The SNCF, but also Air France and other public sector employees are opposing reforms that aim at removing job-for-life guarantees and pay, as well as pension privileges. But the CGT called on a broad rally of protesters to include the private sector and civil society. Thursday's protests included many students who have blocked access to 4 universities over plans to make admissions more selective. Some left-wingers are even hoping for a rerun of the huge May 1968 demonstrations by workers and students that shook France half a century ago. In France, striking and protesting is how people make their voices heard.
Why do we have, as some may say, strikes and demonstrations as our national sport? Well, in France it's a historical issue, whereas in Germany, for instance, where negotiation is part of the system, in France every social progress we've made, women's right to vote, paid leave, etc., it's always been through fights and blood sometimes. And our governments speak of democracy, but once they're elected, it becomes representative democracy, which means that we lose our voice, you know, and the only way we have, to get any say in the reforms that are taking place is to get on the street.
Polls show France divided over Macron, with roughly half approving of his reforms and the other half strongly resisting it. But the 40-year-old president, who's only been 1 year in tenure, stands firm. "I am only doing what I said I would," quote unquote, he said in a recent TV interview. Arabella Sibulak, WION.